Hi, everyone.
Hello, Kevon, Benson,
Oh,
Timothy, Darwin,
Darwin.
Pia.
Hello, wave to the camera, everyone. I know it's bright and early there in APAC, so
Now that
hey,
Kevon is here, I'm
Kevon.
nervous.
Good
Kevon
old
is my
times.
wingman for this.
Oh, seriously. I'm glad you brought your crew, Amito.
Okay, so Kevon will give me feedback afterwards.
I'm sure we'll
I'll
also
try
hear
to.
our own feedback. So that's what this session is for. Hi, everyone. I think while we're waiting for more people to join in, thank you so much for joining our session today. We're celebrating the launch of Butter Scenes, which is our very new product at Butter. We are launching today on Product Hunt, so please give us some support there. And if you haven't checked it out yet, and you will see it today actually, because Amita prepared some goodies for us. Scenes is basically the power of a canvas with the simplicity of slides. I won't talk so much about it because you'll see it in the session today. But today is really all about a celebration of learning for us. And one of the things which there's not as much of a light that's shown on is how do people, especially in facilitation, because it's very Western oriented, how do people actually engage with APAC learners better? How do we facilitate with a bit more of an inclusive feel and very in a much more mindful way of the differences when it comes to culture? And speaking about it with someone who has loads of experience on the topic, Kevan can probably also hype her up with me on this. But Amita, thanks, Kevon. So Amito Li has a lot of experience when it comes to leading cross-cultural, especially APAC teams. And I think she can also introduce herself much more, but she has a lot of insights to share with us today from her experience when it comes to crafting these experiences for APAC learners. So, and given that I feel most of the crowd here or give quick thumbs up if you may, or maybe later, you can react as well on Zoom who here is coming from that particular region. Okay, I know at least Darwin Kevon is here. So two. So we have a bit of a mixed crowd. So I'm hoping we get a lot of perspectives for today. But without further ado, I will pass it over to Mito for the meat of the topic today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Jessica. And Shireen, do you want to say hi as well?
Hi, everybody. I'm taking over co hosting from Cheska, and I'll be here assisting Amito throughout the whole workshop.
Great, thank you. I'm going to share my screen right now and hope everybody's seeing it. I see some nodding on the head. Okay, this is my first time using Butter Scenes as well. So I actually need to confess that I just put up the PowerPoint, the slides this morning, but a lot of things are in my head. So today with a close group of people, I want you to also share, like I will engage you to share your experience as well. So today we're going to use just the Butter Scenes and using a Zoom chat box and using raising hand function on Zoom. And sometimes I might call you out, whether you are on video camera or not. I'll try to say hi to you. So right now I want you to use Zoom chat box and then let everybody know like where are you right now? For me, I'm right now at home in Hong Kong. I'm going to type that in my chat box as well. This is okay. So Jessica is from Copenhagen, Darwin from Philippines. Yeah, Kevon in Hong Kong, very close to me. Okay, interesting. Okay, Benson, okay, from Hong Kong as well. Yeah, multitasking. And Timothy from Nashville and Tennessee. And Shireen from Bali, Indonesia. Yep, okay, interesting. We have a quite diverse group today. And so I want to try, okay. I want you to go to this link that Shireen or Cheska is going to share in the chat box right now. Can you let me know like what kind of format of workshop do you run? Is it in-person workshop or is it remote, virtual or hybrid, or is it more pre-recorded sessions? Just want to get a sense of what kind of session, what kind of format are you delivering? Okay, I see that a lot of you are on.
Looks like I cannot click on it.
Oh,
You
really?
try the second one,
Okay, let me say
the one
reopen.
from share.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, there.
Yeah. Okay, a lot of you are okay remote. So Timothy and I think okay, Shireen, virtual, and okay, Darwin is more hybrid. Russell as well, and I'm the only person who runs in person. Oh, Benson also runs in person workshop. Okay. Oh, Shireen, Cheska say fully remote. Oh, interesting, interesting. So actually this session, a lot of content is oriented on virtual but because of my in-person experience, I'm going to share that as well. Oh, okay. So this scene function actually works. Okay, good. It looks really good. And then, all right, next, I want you to try this function as well. So what kind of workshop do you run and who are your audience? Okay, I could see Cheska is typing. Oh, okay, Timothy is typing. Pretty cool. Actually, you're seeing the, if you go to your page, you would be typing answer, but if you go to Zoom and look at my screen, you'll actually be seeing the presenter mode. Oh, how do I, okay. So Darwin's, so your audience is more leaders, and Cheska are more running brainstorming sections. Kevon more for creator. Yeah, his famous built-in public master class have been running cohort program. Shireen is journaling. You see that Timothy and Russell is typing. Okay, interesting. So we actually, yeah, besides the country that you're from, we're running quite a bit of diverse of topic. So Benson say life planning class for public. Timothy is agile development and leadership meetings. Russell workshop for assessment and program design. All right, so quite diverse. And you know what? I'm gonna call out some of you, and because I know Kevon already. So if you don't mind, I'm gonna ask someone that I don't know yet. So Darwin, can I say hi to you?
Hey, Amito.
Hey, nice to meet you. So for you, you're running leadership
Smiling.
workshops. So
Yes.
where are they usually from? Is it from your own country or is it from other regions as well?
Um, Before I sort of like settled here in Manila back again, I'm originally from the Philippines, but I've been living in Singapore for like 16, 17 years. So the leaders there in SME. So I'm a facilitator, designer, strategist. So when it comes to leaders workshop, normally it's more on the strategic planning, wherein I folded in foresight and futures.
Right.
And so that's sort of like the audience and the nature of work. But I
Mhm.
also come in mostly as a facilitator for team and using Lego
Mhm.
Series Play as a method.
Right. And may I ask about like, where are they from? Like, are they also based, like, they're based in Singapore? Are they like all Singaporean or are they from diverse background?
Mostly Singaporean if I do it in Singapore, but Singapore being a regional hub, sometimes you get other participants from other countries. So that's when it becomes online also. So you have Singapore and then the APAC region leadership comes in and dial in if they're sort of like short of budget and cannot fly everyone in the same in the same room in Singapore. But in the Philippines, I've realized since I'm working now with public sector, you can bring everyone in the same room.
Right. Okay, got it. Thank you, Darwin, for sharing. Can you pick one person in this room to share next that you want like to know them more?
Timothy,
Hello, Timothy.
off to you, Mike.
Hey then. Hello, hello. All right. So most of my workshops and training are going to be in the federal space, mainly with the same people time and time again. Mostly we use Microsoft Teams for almost everything. But being in the federal space, we're really limited on what tools we can we're allowed to use internally because of security concerns. So I'm just here to see what's out there, what's available, and what I can promote and try to get a little bit of innovation involved here.
Right. Okay, got it. Thank you, Timothy. And I'm sure here we have, like all of you are, I could see that could be quite experienced. And then so today, if you have like something to also share or observation, I like really welcome you all to share as well. All right, so moving on. Okay, switching back to scenes. So so a little bit about my experience. So actually my experience is only 3 years in delivery. So my language of delivery is Cantonese is my mother language. So I'm from Hong Kong. So Cantonese is our mother tongue, and the English, Mandarin. So most of my focus is for communication, management, and entrepreneurship. And my target audience are often management trainee, graduate trainee, executive trainees, middle management, or both. And even though we're mostly both based in Hong Kong, sometimes I fly to China. And for the rest of, you see like Australia, Bangladesh, India, Indonesia, Japan, Malaysia, the rest of countries, I don't usually fly there. I usually deliver it virtually. So that's a little bit of my background. And so what I will be sharing today is my own observation, my own experience, because my past experience for delivery is only for past 3 years, but I actually have more experience in the back end. So I want to share with you this. These are the few clients that I work with for the past 3 years. And some other project other than R&D experience. So some project-based work on marketing, being a general managers and branding and consultants. And so one of the thing that I usually do is I recommend something. So recently I watched this Netflix show is by like with Bill Gates is What's Next, the future with Bill Gates. So he in there, okay, a lot of people like is like very happy, maybe you have seen it. So it's a really great series of like how he tackled like 5 different really huge problem in the world. I really highly recommend you watching it. And the other 2 like things that I really enjoy is podcasts. And these 2 are my favorite hosts. So Louis Howes, he interviewed people to share about like intimate relationship, money, success, and this is something that I'm working on myself as well, these 3 topics. And then Simon Sinek, I really enjoy his podcast where he share about how do we build human connection, how do we build friendship, and how this is really important for right now, like people feel really isolated, has a lot of depression and anxiety issues. So these are 3 things that I recommend, 1 Netflix show and 2 podcasts. Okay, so my experience has been in a few roles since 2011, so 13 years ago. So I started to become, I joined in a training firm. So the first role that I took on is account manager. So basically I have to like do business development, working like acquiring new client and building relationship. And I have been doing that since then. And I'm also like, there are a lot of names. So after we acquire a clients, then we kind of need to like match them with the right trainer, right solution. So, and we also need to do all the coordination, production and on-site support. And so only since 3 years ago, I started to become from backstage to be the front end delivery. So the reason why I share this with you is because as the back end person, I actually heard a lot of things that as a front end performers, you might not know that the client share with me and also the participants share with me, because they would come to me and then share that, okay, this trainer is really great because of this. This trainer is really not good because of this, but they are not going to show it in their face. They'll be really nice and friendly, and then but I basically hear a lot of like things about what's work and what doesn't work. So today's session I'm going to just share my observation and insights so that maybe something that you have not heard from directly from participant or even your agency or the clients, and I hopefully could help you gain some insight from what we hear from the backstory. Okay, Benson is clapping his hands. Okay. So I want to brag about myself a little bit, may I? So while I'm working with the different trainers and also clients, I receive very good feedback from them. So these are some of the feedback I got from the trainers that I work with, the client that I work with. So it's a lot of tiny nitty details in between, like Sharon right now and Cheska right now, they have to work a lot of different tiny bitty little details. So to make this happen and make this really smooth. So for all of you who are doing front end delivery, like back end people are really important. And I know right now a lot of you might be doing that on your own as well, but I want to applaud for people who are from the back end. Yay. Okay, I need to switch screen. Okay, so I'm going to tell you the truth today. So one thing that you really need to do is the first tip is being really well in reading the room, particularly in APAC region, because from the outside, everybody is going to look quite friendly, and then they're not going to say anything. So you need to be like feeling the room, being present and knowing how they're feeling right now, even though they're sitting there being quiet. Kind of need to feel the energy. And so by reading a room extremely well, you could be doing whatever I'll be sharing later, because without being able to read the room, you might not be able to adjust. So this is the first rules. I believe it is true for all of the trainers, whether you're delivering to other countries, other regions besides APAC, but for APAC it's particularly, they look very friendly and nice on the outside. Yeah, and God knows what they are saying in their mind. Timothy is laughing. Okay, so I'm not going to brag about myself again, but so there are 3 parts I'm going to share today that hopefully help you to gain a little bit of insight. So first one is setup, second is structure, third is engagement. So in terms of setup, it's all about psychological safety, because in order for learners to share, to be engaged, they need to feel like psychologically safe. I'm sure you have heard about this concept over and over again, but how do we really, like, what exactly can we do to make psychological safety? Okay, so I debunk it into who, what, and how. So who is about who you are. So be really relatable to the participants. So remember in the beginning, I shared quite a bit about my background. So I share about like the audience I deliver, the topic, my own experience, Netflix show that I enjoyed, podcast that I enjoyed. And also I brag about myself. So this makes them feel really relatable. So they need to know who you are. So besides being a really great presenter, from what my observation has been, Western trainers, I'm sorry today maybe I use some stereotyping wording like West, East, but because the whole training and facilitation industry started from basically the West. And so in the beginning, a lot of us learn facilitation skill and training methods through international trainers. But when I adopt this technique into APAC context, sometimes we need to adjust. So that's why, so today, bear with me, I'm gonna use some stereotyping. You could give me bad feedback if you if you feel really bad about this, okay? But I'm gonna use these terms. So who really means that are you relatable? So in a lot of training that I sit in, particularly with Western trainer, sometimes they focus too much about the content and the framework and the authority of the content. Like, okay, this is from McKinsey research, this is from like well-known leaders, this is a quote from someone. But what's people in the room, the learner in the room to know is, why do they need to learn from you? It doesn't mean that, so we have heard like myth, like, okay, so Asian or APAC region people, they like authority, so they listen to authority. But from my personal experience, that is not exactly true. So authority is not from you citing like great research and great quote. The authority actually for me, it comes from authenticity. How relatable are you? And are you walking the talk? When you share about this framework, this model, have you yourself applied it in your life? It doesn't mean that you need to be like massive successful. It doesn't mean that you need to be like in higher hierarchy than them. Like, for example, I'm really young and most of you are more experienced than me. And then most of the training that I deliver are people who are more senior than I do. And then, but when they find that I have personal experience of how to make that framework, that model and theory so relatable in my personal life and also work life, and also maybe sharing examples from session people that the examples that I heard from other sessions, they find it like relevant. When they feel relevant to the content and to you, they want to listen to you. So this is the first who. So who you are, who are you? Why are you listening? Why am I sitting here listening to this person? Okay, so this is the who. And then the other who is who are the people in the room? So when it's a particular is in virtual sessions, or is it maybe in an open public workshop like this one? And even though within the organization, sometimes it comes from different departments. So we want to be in the beginning, letting them know that who the other people are in the room. Like for example, let me share an example. So last week I delivered a session for Burberry, and I hope you're seeing my slides here. Okay. So I actually put up this page. This is the participant list. I'm not sure if I could do that. You're doing the recording right now. I'm sure I've got quite a lot of content that are quite confidential. I'm not sure how that
We're gonna
works.
keep it a secret if you are.
Okay. Okay. Because I want to make it like real. So I'm using like real cases. So I put up this slide, just copying and pasting the participant list. Actually, there are two, I'm not sure where that goes. Oops. All right, I'm not going to do anything. So there are 20 people in this, because I use the Microsoft PowerPoint, but this one is Google Slides, so some formatting is not showing the rest of the other 10. But I show them that, okay, so these are the people in the room today. And then they feel, oh, okay, so we have finance team coming here, we have this team. And so they feel more safe. They know who exactly is in there, because sometimes we put them into breakout room and they're like, oh, I don't know who they are. I just know their names from Zoom. Okay, so this is the second, the who, but there's a second one. And then the third who is who are we going to be engaging today? Like, are we going to be interacting like just with like me and you, or are we interacting, are we going to put up into breakout rooms? So they want to know, kind of like have an expectation of what's going to happen during the session. Like even for this session, I shared in the beginning that I'll be using chat function, raising hand, and also like calling you out, so that you're prepared for it. So this is something to set up in the beginning. And then what is the agenda for today, and what are you going to learn, and how are you going to engage me? So these three things I demonstrate earlier, like the how is the how are you going to engage me? Because sometimes they would be thinking in their mind that, okay, so do we need to do a presentations? Do we need to bring on our personal case? And what do I need to do? So these really keep them thinking and keep them from engaging with you. So in the very beginning, set up the scene with psychological safety is by knowing these three things. Okay, I'm gonna here like call out, see if Javier is here. I'm gonna invite him if he's able to turn on his mic, if he's here. Okay, no. Okay, Benson, can I invite you?
Benson?
If Benson is not here, then I'm gonna call on Kevon, who I haven't called out today.
Okay, sure.
So what are you thinking right now from what I've shared just now? Do you resonate with some of the points?
Most of my audience are in the West, so I haven't tapped into the East audience yet. But I definitely resonate with building rapport early in the session, getting to know them a little bit more. I'm very curious though. So the vibe that you're giving us right now here, is it different than the vibe that you'll give out when you serve a big company like Burberry, or even like bigger companies? Is that different?
Really depends on their vibe. So when I see their face, I would adjust my energy. So today I would say that I would be more casual, I would say. Really depends on their, like how they look and feel to me. And if they are more technical people, I would tune down a little bit on my energy to match their energy.
So a follow-up question on that is,
Mhm.
do you just read the room when you enter the room, or is there any technique or tricks to read it beforehand so then you're more prepared for that audience?
So yeah, good questions. And I'm gonna see if Darwin's Timothy, you could also share in the chat box if you have like some technique as well. But from my personal experience, if I have the name list, I will go to LinkedIn to check on their names beforehand. And then I would also, because if they're a direct client, then I'll ask them questions like, okay, so what type of people are coming to the sessions? Can you like give me some descriptions about, okay, are they more like pragmatic or quiet? But quiet is not true, because quiet depends on how you engage them. So when they say quiet, I often say like I don't believe it because most of my session, I have never seen people being quiet. And yeah, and then so are they like, what kind of style of trainer do they like? And then oftentimes, which I'm going to share it later, is that from my experience, APAC learner, they prefer like really logical and practical structure, that they know exactly why the content, different content is relevant to each other and how it builds up on each other. I work, besides doing my own content, like I'm not sure that answered Kevin's questions already. Okay, thank you. And I'm going to share a little bit more is so besides me designing my own content, I also work with 4 different agencies, like 4 different consulting firms where they provide the content, and I do local adaptation and deliver the sessions. And what I found out that most of the content that are from UK or Australia or more European oriented, they are less slide than I needed. So usually I need to add in like 10 or 20 more slides in between to make sense of why these different concepts are related to each other and how does that build on to the content. So I'm going to share some examples as well. Okay, so I'll be moving on. Is that okay? Okay, thank you. Okay. So the key is really to save with themselves. They know what is happening and feel safe with you and feel safe with people around them. So for building psychological safety. And that was for virtual session. And for in-person workshop, I usually use visual cards as icebreaker, because I usually ask question like, okay, can you please pick a card from the sea of cards that represent, for example, how you feeling. For example, right now is end of 2024 that I might ask questions. So pick a card that best represent your 2024. And for example, in DISC workshop, like the different communication style, I may ask them to pick 2 cards, that represent 2 contrasting self of you, the person, and then they pick 2 cards. And by using visual, I found that it's very impactful for them to describe the scenario, describe their experience, describe their year, describe their feeling from a third person perspective, which also make them feel safer. Like for example, if I ask them to, how do you feel like your 2024, pick one image to represent that. If we simply ask this question on like without having visual or any props, they'll be like, happy. I feel fine. I feel calm. I feel peaceful. And then you don't actually get much out of them. But when you let them pick a picture, they'll be like, oh, so this year this feels like this sea of water with a lot like little duck in it, because I have this experience and recently I have this. So that really opened them up, but at the same time creating distance, because in the beginning we want to be like step by step to approach them step by step. In virtual session, I usually use engagement. Like how I usually start my engagement is to ask them to just nod without unmuting. So just, okay, is everybody okay? Is everybody seeing my screen? And I nod my head and I'm seeing people nodding their head. So this is the minimum engagement that I start to engage them. And then the next one I usually use is, can you raise your hand? Whether using the emoji, the react, or like physically raising their hands. And then the third one is asking them to type. So start to ask them to voice out without unmuting. That feels safe, but they're moving. And the third one would be to starting to use Menti or other props, or if like a small group like this, I would be engaging with someone who looks really friendly and open and ready to speak, like I asked Darwin in the beginning. So this is some like small tricks that I do like step by step rather than just calling out people like immediately and build connections. And this, we need to take little steps. Yeah, okay. Hope that's helpful. And then so I usually, and for visual card, I usually put them on the floor if it is particularly for senior people, because I want them to get out of that mental state of, okay, I'm like serious people, I'm like senior management people. So I get them to like knee down and get to the ground like a playground, so that they start to feel like, oh, this is a session that is different. I could break out of my original state and then I'm ready to learn. So this is how I usually, that the reason why I do these kind of things. Okay. I see some feedback from chat box. Yeah, great, thank you. And then next, and actually it's funny because this tool that I use, Spark Card, is actually featured in an article by Butter 2 years ago. The 44 facilitation card deck to inspire next workshop. And at that time, we didn't know about this. And then when we saw this, it was like, wow, we're the only tools from Hong Kong that are featured because it's designed from Hong Kong. And we're doing certification in Hong Kong as well on how do you use visual literacy in your facilitations, not just icebreaker, but in, for example, Timothy, you do agile leadership and management, and Darwin as well. How do you use visual, not just Spark, any visual, to try deeper in and more insightful conversations?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we definitely, we use a Mural, we do screen sharing, and of course, yeah. In the federal government, they don't really turn cameras on, but I'm trying to change that and encourage everyone to turn their cameras on and try to keep it interesting.
Yeah, it's not easy to like ask people to turn their camera on. Darwin.
No, similarly, I was sharing in the chat that this is where I think Butter scenes and Butter in general is very useful when you have this, because you can actually post some visual cards there and grab some images from the internet. I mean, it could be anything, metaphorical, abstract images, because you want to draw people in and extract stories around the visual cues that they see. So if, for example, you line up like 6 images there using scenes, then you can actually start engaging them in a virtual setting, like, pick a card that represents what you feel today. That easily starts the conversation at the beginning of a virtual workshop for me.
Yeah. Really great input from Darwin. Thank you. Yeah, and when I saw scenes like a couple of days ago, and I was like, oh, actually, I could like put Spark part or any visual in there and make it easier, because in like Miro is like really complicated. I give up on it already, because like all people like, I don't know how to click to the link, and how do I type in my screen name? How do I display the name? And I was like, oh. Yeah, okay, yeah. So thank you, Butter, for creating scenes as well. Okay, so moving on. So I use Spark Card. So in here, you could continue to like share some good questions that you use visual as icebreaker. If you're like during the session, you could like enter this, but I'm going to move on to the next. So this one is for you to like share tips so that it benefits the rest of the participant here as well. So part two is, because part one we have done the setup. So in the beginning, the setup is important, and the second one is structure. And so I've noticed that, as mentioned actually just now, that I saw that most of the content from like usually Western is like the concept itself or the module or the framework, they are scattered. Like, so, okay, so to like, for example, in a half-day session, they may cover three framework that are really good framework. But as a APAC learner, we are not sure, like quite sure how these concepts are related to each other. And then so oftentimes you get feedback at the end of the session, like when you look at the feedback form or evaluation report, you could see comments like, I learned something new today. Great framework. And then good theory. And then usually they would add a dash, say, can I have more examples? Can I have more case studies? And can I have more videos? And then like, how do I apply it in my workplace setting? So this is the comment that we usually see. It sounds like quite neutral content, but when I'm reading these comments, from my personal like experience, like hearing feedback from them, it means that they're not sure why they are listening to, like, why do I need to learn this new concept? It's something like good, but how does it work in my life? And how do I apply it? So they actually need a little bit more structure. So let me share an examples from my personal, okay, how do I move this? Workshop. Okay, so for virtual workshop, this is the setup stage. I usually like ask them to type their name and let them know that what's happening. But then I usually create something like a mind map. So like, for example, this is for delegations, no, time management, productivity. So I let them know that we're going to have 3 parts. So organize, analyze, optimize. So first thing we do to manage your time is to get yourself organized. After you organize it, like get a list, and then you need to start prioritizing and analyzing it. And after analyzing it, how to optimize it. So, and then each part, I will give them tools. And these are the visual cues that I let them do the exercise. And so, for example, organize, I will ask them to do a to-do list. And from the to-do list, how do we prioritize? We use the urgent and important matrix. And after doing and analyzing the part and prioritizing, because we need to find out those who that are not urgent but important, then how do we optimize it? I give 2 more tools: Eat the Frog, ABCD method, and the 2-minute rule. So having this structure for them, they could clearly see like how the session, the content that you deliver is interrelated to each other. Because without this, they will still feel okay, honestly. They will still feel okay. But there will be a lot of question in their mind, like, okay, so I learned this concept and this tool, where do I apply in my real life? And so I learn another tools, and how does it relate to each other? So oftentimes I draw up, like, I would either draw a map. So this is in the very beginning, I deliver workshops, so I put in a lot of time designing the slides, but right now I usually simplify it into words. But actually having this mind map in my own mind is very helpful. I usually use paper to write, like, how does this whole thing related to each other. So this is a one example that I want to give. Same as this one is for delegation and motivations. So again, so they're usually 3 to 5 steps. So identify what you need to delegate. And after you identify what you need to delegate, and then who. And then each of them, I give them tools on how do they do each step. So this is really helpful for them to gain structure and being logical. So these are some of the comments that I get from my participants. So they find me really relatable, and they find it really clear and relevant to them. So when I debunk why they feel so excited and I feel quite clear after the workshop, I noticed that having logical structure approach is really helpful for them to not just remember, but to understand how to apply it. Yeah. Okay, yep, see some nodding in the head. Okay, so keep going. And then the third part is engagement. So have you heard this facilitation 101? Your energy is the energy is in the room, of the room. Yeah. And this is true. And at the same time, I also noticed that for Western trainer who are more extroverted, they over rely on their energy to affect the room. So usually they are quite hyper, and then they were like, okay, let's like pump up the day. And then today we're going to be really motivated, and we're going to learn so much today. And then, are you excited about this? And APAC learner will be like, yeah. So it's, for me, I see that it's overusing that energy and relying too much on the energy. And as Kevon like asked me earlier, like, do I like, is this my normal energy level, or is it the same vibe that I use in different sessions? I really actually adjust my energy based on the energy of the room. I usually is 1-2 level energy higher than the room, because I want to lead them to like having higher energy, but I'm not like way too far-fetched on how I engage them. And this is one thing that I noticed in Western trainers. They rely too much on their own energy, and it's not working in Asia. Yeah. And even if I'm the audience, I would actually feel quite scared. Like, okay, this trainer is going to ask me so many questions, and it's like so unpredictable. I'm so scared. Like in my mind, when I see, like as an introvert, when I see this happen, I would feel so scared. And then the psychological safety is not there anymore. Yeah, so this is one thing that I want to share. And then the next one is the engagement. So in West, it's oftentimes it's individual contributions, but for in APAC region, they might feel a little bit uncomfortable. So usually what I would do is to ask them to go into, if it is more personal topic that I want them to bring up the personal challenge, I usually would ask them to like give them like 3 to 5 minutes, quickly go into a breakout room and then say hi to each other, and then just have a little chat on, okay, what kind of challenge are you facing on this particular topic? And then very quickly, 3 to 5 minutes, come back to the room and ask one person to share that, okay, in your room, so what have you seen in common as a challenge? And it's funny that when I say that, they usually share their own personal, after they share the group, they share their personal challenge. But if we do not put them into breakout room to do that little discussion and ask like a participant directly, so what is the challenge that you face right now? I found that they're more reluctant to share directly. So my tips is to get them into a small breakout room and have a chat, and then ask them to, okay, in your group, what is something in common? So that would be more comfortable for them to share. And then the next one is the direct confrontations and debates. And oftentimes I noticed that in the West, they are more open to like share different opinions, and then maybe that I don't agree with you. But in APAC, and usually instead of like, if I really want to know their what they're thinking, I would usually ask them to type. Like after one person sharing, I would usually ask them to type in chat box. Okay, so from what you have heard, share a little bit like of what you're thinking right now. And then typically they're more willing to share. And then when I see the facial expression of someone that's quite ready to share, I might call out 1 or 2 person to comment on what they have seen on the comment box, rather than comment on the person who just presented. So this is one little tricks that I do. And then it's also the pacing. The pacing, it's really important to grasp the timing and pacing. And this is in, I'm gonna like put this timing and also the pacing at the same sector, because I noticed that in Western delivery is very much focused on the process and the timing. Oftentimes you have timer, and you go to like different board and then ask them to input on or certain brainstorming session. But in Asia, I noticed that you need to be really flexible in terms of, okay, so when you read in the room, you feel like the room need more time to reflect, or they want to have more discussions on this part. You might need to adjust your content flow quite a bit to fit in the dynamic of the group. And they really appreciate it, because sometimes when we look at the evaluation form, and then they would feel like, okay, not enough time for discussion, not enough time for reflections. So the reason why is I've seen that a lot of Western trainer, they are more focused on like, okay, we're being on time on this part, and the next one we're moving on. But in Asia, I noticed that being really flexible is important, and they find it you are very relatable to them, and you understand their needs. So this is another observation I have noticed. Okay, Timothy, can I ask you for some feedback?
You caught me multitasking. Yes.
Yeah, it's okay. What do you feel about the timing, being flexible and following the process?
Yeah, absolutely. I've done both in-person and virtual meetings, and where I might have a good routine down for like the high energy, meetings. I've also been burned where I have an executive being there and he's very to the books, get to the point, cut all the fat and tell me exactly what you need. So be able to like read the room, to be able to adjust your timing, to adjust, their overall agenda to the audience. It's, I can tell you, it's so important to me because I got burned one time and got pulled aside into how to talk about it and say, look, this guy is not, he's not in for any details. He just wants to get me the facts, tell me what I need to know, and let me go.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I really had to adjust my strategy after that.
Yeah, well, thank you, Timothy, for sharing, and particularly for senior management group that their time is really important, and yeah, they really want to focus on things that they feel is important to them. Yeah, okay, great, thank you. And I think there are a few more points to share. That the feedback mechanisms. So open-end feedback sessions are like, for example, I'm going to give one examples because I often hear that, okay, in the design of your workshop, one of the activity that we usually use is ask them to share a personal work case that applied the framework that you just shared. But oftentimes when we go into the breakout room to check how they're doing, it's complete silence. When we ask them to like, right now, just immediately think of a case that is relatable. And oftentimes if you go into check out how they're doing, they're not talking because they don't know how to like immediately relate the concept to their personal or work life. So usually I would give them examples. For example, this is one that I did for a university in Hong Kong this Monday or Tuesday. So I also, besides I welcome them to share their personal case if they have, oftentimes they don't, but then I also let them to choose something in below. I give them examples and I give them case studies. I will prepare examples for them because oftentimes I'm not sure why, but they cannot instantly connect the concept to applications. So in order for us to bridge the learning gap, we really need to give examples and case studies. And that's why, particularly in APAC region, we really oftentimes see in feedback form that they say, okay, we need case study, we need example. And even if you share case study example, they want it to like really relevant to their industry. So this is something that in APAC, what they're looking for. If we make it like too generic, they will feel like, okay, this is just a general concept. I don't know how to apply it to my life and to my workplace. Okay. Yep, so that's it. And so this is what I want to share today is like 3 things. So this is actually my mental notes. I shared it out because I didn't have time to prepare it. But this is what I was thinking. I was thinking to put it in the beginning, what to expect today, but I decided to, okay. So these are all the things that I wanted to cover today. So one is setup, psychological safety. Second is like being really logical. knowing why each concept is related to each other, and making it really contextual, giving like case study that are relevant to the industry. And then the third thing is the engagement. It's actually okay for them to be called out. Like in most of the session, I see that APAC learners, they are actually waiting for you to call them out. Like less often they would volunteer. Some like only like 10 to 20% of the participant would be like willing to like raise their hand and then say, oh, let me do it. And but most of the time when you call them out, they really have a lot of things to share. So it's okay to call them out, but in the beginning, just build psychological safety and make you become a friendly person that they want to talk to you. And then the second one is like ask them to present as a group rather than present as for themselves. And also it's better to be flexible on your agenda, the way of engagement. Like very often time I need to adjust my way of engagement right on the spot. Like for example, if I put on pool and I notice that, okay, people are not like engaging right now, I might like immediately change to another engagement method, like giving up some of the content and some of the flow. So like being really flexible, they will appreciate it. And sometimes it's better to be anonymous. So if there are times that you need to like ask them to like for more sensitive feedback, best to use Menti rather than chatbots to keep them anonymous. But now we could use scenes. We could, I think there is a setting that we could hide the names. Yeah. And then for thinking about a personal or work scenario, it's better that you give them case studies because they often ask these questions. And then so last thing to close up the session is, are you being a presenter or are you someone that the person would like to learn from you and also learn with you? Because in the session, what we are really looking for is not you presenting something wonderful. It's for them to feel like I want to learn with you and with this group of people together. Yeah. Okay, so this is my final tip, and then be relatable and have a conversation every time. For any session, having like a conversation with people, I found it the best way for them to learn. So, and that's all for today. And I hope you all enjoyed it and then find something that useful for your next session, particularly for APAC regions learner. But I'm sure actually some of the tips might be also relevant to international audience. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much, Amito.
All right,
Thank
great.
you
Thank you.
for all the insights. Everybody, I will try to direct you to the chat for both Amito's links to connect with Amito, and also please support us in our launch for Butter Scenes, what Amito has been using throughout the session. We have just launched on Product Hunt, so we would love your support there. And if you're here for the whole Scenes Festival, I've also included a link to the next session by Darren Gray. Thank you, Amito, for all your insights on how to work with APAC people. I totally can relate with everything you said about the APAC people. I can see my mom, my aunt, like my friends, all the way you described the APAC participants. Thank you so much. And
Thank
if
you.
anybody
Thank you so much.
wants to unmute to say thanks to Amito, you can do that now.
Thanks, Amito. We'll connect
Thank
with
you,
you.
Howie.
Thank you, Amito.
Bye-bye. Thank you,
Bye.
Russell.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
Dee. Thank you.